Everyone, I am Kate Brown. I'm the founder of Savorista, the caffeine-conscious coffee company specializing in crafty calf and low-calf coffees. And I'm so excited to be here with Molly Seidel. Molly is just a badass runner and coffee lover. She has won 12 state titles in high school, 4 NCAA titles, and recently has qualified for the Olympics for the marathon. She's only 7 seconds from being the top American qualifier. So Molly is just such a badass in so many fronts, and is one of the very, very few people who were selected to run the pro-only London Marathon this year. So Molly, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
I would love to hear, in terms of running, I would love to hear kind of what's up next for you in terms of the London Marathon. What's that going to look like, and how have you been preparing both physically and mentally for that race?
Yeah, so getting into the London Marathon was huge for me. There's so few racing opportunities right now in the age of COVID. Most of the major marathons had been canceled. So when we got the news in July that they were going to be holding a pro-only race for London, and that I was going to be one of 2 Americans that got to do it, I was just like, I was over the moon. So we've done a really, really fast marathon build. I'm currently 3 weeks out from the race. Definitely getting nervous, but really, really excited to just get that opportunity to go over and race 20 laps around Buckingham Palace.
Amazing. Congratulations. That's really exciting to be a part of that group.
Yeah, it really is an honor to be selected, and really to get to race against some of the best women in the world. So it'll be a cool experience. It'll be a learning experience.
Amazing. I think that's the best way to look at everything. I'd love to hear a little bit more. How are you kind of mentally preparing? How are you training physically to be at your best for that race?
Yeah, so physically, it's just getting in a lot of volume. I've been kind of averaging right around 120 to 125 miles a week running with workouts. Wow. And then part of that is just like the mental training. You kind of learn to be able to run at certain paces, learn to be, frankly, to be bored for long periods of time while you're working hard. We just had a workout this past Saturday where it was basically like 12 miles at marathon pace. And it's just kind of like, it's a little bit grueling and it's not super exciting, but that's the kind of stuff that you have to practice. And so, and then just kind of like some visualization, kind of realizing that it's going to be a very tough race. It's going to be very fast. And so trying to practice putting myself in the headspace that I'm going to be in. And yeah, it's just a lot of time on my feet as well. But yeah, I love doing that kind of training. Like that's my bread and butter.
Awesome. That sounds great. It sounds like you're really, really thinking about it holistically, which is awesome to hear. I'd love to hear a little bit more about so being part of an elite running community and an elite community of athletes more broadly is something that most of us know nothing about in terms of how you guys kind of work together as a community or feel as a community. And then also would love to hear how things changed in COVID. I imagine kind of supporting and encouraging each other looks totally different now than it may have a while ago.
Yeah. So my home base as an athlete is in Boston, Massachusetts. And then I also split my time out in Flagstaff, Arizona. So that I'm currently in Flagstaff doing altitude training before this race. And what I love about both of those places is that they're huge hubs for the running community. Boston has multiple pro teams and a really strong community of like amateur elite runners. So I constantly have people to train with, constantly have friends to run with, and just a really good like social network of people who are just as crazy about running as I am, and always someone to go out for a run with. Same thing here in Flagstaff. It's a kind of this hub of like elite running in the world. You get people from all over. And so it's really fun getting to come out here for 4 to 6 months out of the year, get that altitude boost, but then also have that strong training community to run with. My coach, John Green, is currently out here with me. We used to be teammates on Saucony, and he now coaches me full time. And so it's fun getting to have him here for my workouts. I've got some guides in town that are awesome and pace me for some of my bigger stuff. So yeah, it's just really, really fun getting to have that. Obviously COVID has changed a lot of just in terms of like meetups with runners, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, we couldn't see anybody. I was in Boston and we were on full lockdown. And so it was really hard for a while because it's like, you're already struggling mentally with the stress of the pandemic. And then it's like, oh, I can't see my friends who I'm running with every day. I can't even see my coach. I can't do all this stuff. And so dealing with that was pretty hard. And then luckily Boston opened up a little bit. People still have to run with masks there. So once I finish the marathon and head back to Boston, it's going to be a lot of masked running again. But yeah, you just kind of roll with it. I think there's so many different changes in the world of COVID, and it's kind of just learning to adapt.
Absolutely. For our runners out there, any tips on running with a mask? I imagine that totally changes your breathing and maybe some of those strategies.
Yeah, so I have run in just about every type of mask you possibly could, from the neck gaiter buffs that you pull up to a full-on N95 mask I've run in. It kind of sucks no matter how you swing it. I think some of it is just kind of accepting that it's not going to feel great. But like, especially in Boston, as long as you're not within 6 feet of people, you're actually allowed to pull the mask down, and then you have to put it up if you're in a crowd. So I don't know, sometimes almost thinking of it as like a workout of like, okay, like when my mask is up, it's going to be harder. So like that'll be like a little bit of a challenge. And then when it's down, I can relax. But yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of like with anything, you just kind of realizing like, okay, this isn't going to feel great, but that's what we have to work with. That's the conditions. And if it makes it safer for everybody, for me to be running in a mask, that's something that I'm willing to put up with. And so whenever I hear people say like, oh, I can't run in a mask, I can't breathe in a mask, I'm like, I once ran 15 miles fully masked. Like, if I can do it, you can wear a mask to the supermarket.
Absolutely. On kind of what you were saying about, you've tried, it sounds like, all the mask options out there. Are there any that you found to be more comfortable than others?
Yeah, I think the neck gaiter ones work really well. I've heard that they aren't quite as protective, so I actually only use those if I am running because they are a little bit more breathable. I don't wear those if I'm going to like an indoor place. I actually have a pretty nice one that was made by Buff. It like straps around my head and has a filter, and so that's one that I use if I have to wear one while I'm like working out and I can't be constantly pulling up and down. But yeah, I think it's really individual. It's whatever works best for you. I keep seeing people with like fun designs on them. So yeah, I don't know. Anything that personally works for you, I would say go for it.
So I'm going to ask you a little bit about coffee. We're a coffee company, obsessed with coffee, and would love to hear, I know you're a coffee lover as well. I'd love to hear a little bit more about, what your coffee ritual looks like, and if that's different when you're training versus when you're not training. I guess you're always training, but when you are
so I was
in the
actually
final stages of training.
So I was just getting made fun of the other day because when I'm at altitude camp, I actually bring out my full coffee setup. So I have a portable kettle with me, a little Hario pour over. I hand grind my beans. So like I take my coffee really seriously. I know some pros like try to cut out caffeine while they're in training and only use it on race day. That's not me. Like there's nothing I love more than a cup of coffee in the morning before I work out. I feel like just the warmth and like the ritual of making it like gets me going in the morning. I have run into the problem of too much caffeine throughout the day. I actually, when I was getting ready for the Olympic trials, I was actually working like part-time also as a barista or in a coffee shop. Yeah, in Boston. And we didn't get paid much, but we would get free coffee the entire shift. And so there would be days where I would have, no joke, probably like 8 cups of coffee or something, or like just slamming cortados. And so I am tried to shift into a little bit more, balanced of a caffeine consumption, which is why I love the Savorista coffee, because it's like when I want something in the afternoon before my shakeout, I don't want a full caffeine cup of coffee at 3 p.m. And it's perfect just being able to have a decaf or a half calf coffee. But yeah, I don't know. I made a resolution 2 years ago that I would not drink bad coffee anymore. I'd only drink good coffee. So I've been 2 years strong on that one. Life's too short for bad coffee.
I completely agree. I was actually going to say the exact same thing. How do you use
Mhm.
caffeine in a strategic way when you're running and when you're training, and how can other people potentially think about that?
Yeah. So caffeine, actually, I think of it as probably one of the best legal performance enhancing like tools that you can use, just from the ability for it to not only like wake you up, get your body going before you run, but also during the run. Late in a race, like in a marathon, I actually start taking caffeinated gels or caffeinated nutrition drink around like, I don't know, like mile 17 or 18 in a marathon, just because that caffeine actually it it perks up your brain, like it helps your brain stay focused while you're late in a race, because that a lot of times is actually where it's starting to like mentally wear you down, and you need to be able to stay focused when you're on mile 18, 19, 20 through 26 of a marathon. So I really see caffeine as something that is really vitally important when I'm racing. I don't think I've ever, probably not since high school, I've gone into a race without having a coffee beforehand, just because it kind of like signals your body like, okay, we're going, we're getting ready.
It's
So
go
I think
time.
when it's used in a way, I think caffeine can be a huge performance enhancer.
And then when you're in the middle of a race, are there like caffeinated gels, or how are you getting caffeine at that, mile 17?
Yeah, so I use Morton, which is a Swedish energy drink and gels. And so they make a special gel that has 100 milligrams of caffeine in it. So I have a gel attached to my bottle, and so I'll take that. They're actually coming out with a new product that I use their 320 mix for the drink mix. It's like a carbohydrate drink, and that will include caffeine. So that's what I'll actually use at the London Marathon.
Cool. Awesome. Do you have, a favorite memory of coffee, or a fun story of how you first started drinking coffee? Anything that you think would be fun to share with others?
My parents always had a French press coffee maker, and so that was kind of like my first experience of like what coffee tastes like. And then when I got to college and I had like crappy auto drip coffee, I'm like, oh, what is this? Like, oh, this is bad. And, like, I think I've always kind of been a coffee snob. Probably my best like memory of coffee is I work at a foundation over in Ethiopia called Girls Gotta Run, and so I've gone over there to help out. It's a scholarship program for girls up in Koji. And Ethiopia obviously has a huge coffee culture, a lot of growing coffee, like specialty brewing. And so one of my friends, Katama, over there taught me how to brew coffee like Ethiopian style, from
Awesome.
roasting and or washing and roasting like beans all the way to the serving ceremony. So that was really cool. And true Ethiopian coffee is rocket fuel. Oh my God.
Absolutely, it is.